in the middle of a question or conversation. So you talked a little bit about, the pressures that guys do experience and how some of them have talked to you in an enclosed or closed space so they feel comfortable because no one's really listening in on that. How do you feel then knowing that about 10% of people with eating disorders are male?
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting statistic. It tells you that I think. Is that a stat that's? Is that in Canada or is that?
I believe it's. I've spoken to a few people. I've spoken to Eating Disorders of York Region and Sheena's Place, which is I don't know if you've heard of it, but
yeah.
And both of them have said that they don't have an exact number, but speculation is at approximately 10%. Yeah.
Wow, that's. I mean, to hear that, it can surprise people, but when you start to think about it, it makes sense because again, there's pressures that men are facing and things that they're not talking about. We can't talk about it. I mean, men's magazines don't really look at issues of weight. They look at, again, like I talked about, they talk about issues of appearance and look, of being in shape. So, with I think for women, there's spaces of dialogue around these issues. And that's obviously because there's so much emphasis on analyzing female appearance and perceptions and whatnot. But these things are existing for men as well. But there's pretty much no space, I think, on a mainstream level. And I think if I was an individual that was struggling with the eating disorder, I wonder as a male where I would go to. If I could even find the courage to talk about it, to admit it to my own doctor. I mean, I'm sure a physician would have a sense of what's going on with me, right? But to seek that help, I could get a contact info. Would I go out there if I could find someone? And then would I really talk about the issue? Because I could just talk about what's going on the surface, but I think with any of these issues, it's really unpacking and talking about where is this coming from, what's the underlying cause and factors. And for guys to go there is so difficult. So it's a heavy process. And again, the pieces that society reinforces for a man to not talk about it. So what's going on inside, plus everyone's kind of just pushing that along and reasserting that. So it becomes double full, the pressure on men and the reality of how hard it is to talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Someone from Eating Disorders of York Region told me a story where there was a guy and he thought he had an eating disorder, or his parents speculated it, and he went to the doctor. And the doctor said to him, "No, you can't have an eating disorder. You're a guy." So he didn't get the treatment
Wow, I'm speechless. That just goes to show you. I think that be interesting. And my knowledge of the health profession is not as much in this topic, but I guarantee you there's a lot of doctors and practitioners who could use a lot of sensitivity training or awareness training around these issues and recognizing that the language they use, their attitudes, behaviors are affecting their male clients from disclosing some of the stuff that they're going through in a variety of ways. And I think that this topic specifically would be a big piece of that. And it's also, again, that there's no role modeling from the medical model of talking about this stuff and addressing it. So naturally it would trickle down to the practitioners who say, well, that's not something I need to be knowledgeable about or aware about. And then again, it's also a thing where the male clients would be like, well, I guess this isn't the issue, it's something else,
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a thing where it's passed off, I guess, as maybe depression, or it's just you just need to have a good night's sleep or something like that. I don't know, whatever it could be, get a new job or something, and not addressing the core issue at hand and the underlying stuff.
What do you think? How do you feel knowing that there are only a few centers in the GTA that provide free support for people with eating disorders?
Wow.
There are only about 3.
Wow, that's very depressing to think about. You see a tenth of folks that are dealing with eating disorders are identified as male. That tells us there's quite a number of men that are dealing with this, and they don't know where to turn. It's not accessible for them. So then it becomes this thing where it's such a maze and such a challenge to even talk about it. And when you do talk about it, it's probably even harder to find support. So you just push it way back inside even further and bury it and not talk about it. So I think it's definitely an issue that needs some spotlight and attention. And it's a thing where, as rightfully so, we have so much conversation around women's health and these intersecting issues, but we need to also talk about it with men because they go hand in hand. The way that we create these ideas of gender, what happens to one side will affect the other as well, and in turn will affect everybody. So I guess shifting the perception is a big key around this, and just getting to talk about any issue around masculinity and the perception of what a man is in any state of being is part of that challenge to make that happen.
So society is now faced with this challenge to prevent this gender construction, so we can all go on living our lives and just be happy with the way we are. But that's obviously we're making baby steps. I guess we're taking baby steps right now because it's such a big goal to obtain. Mm-hmm. What else can society do to help prevent these gender constructions and these stereotypes so people who need help can get it?
I think it's for every individual space and community, it's really being honest and reflective about pressures that we're creating for people, and recognizing that when we create a freedom for people to be who they are, regardless of what their appearance is, and that means male or female, how they identify, how they're meant to look. When you create that freedom for people to just be themselves, it allows the best to rise to the surface, right? So it allows them to, if they're in an organization or a company or a community group or a place of worship or whatever space of school, that they can come to this space and be themselves and make the environment just excel. And if everyone's coming in that space at their game and just be free to do their thing, it just benefits everyone. So it's to everyone's benefit to kind of talk about these issues that are being neglected and being dismissed, and more importantly, that are directly affecting us. Because if there's 10% of males that are dealing with eating disorders out of the collective that are dealing with eating disorders, that's a large number of men. And there's a large number of men that are dealing with all kinds of body image issues and health issues and not talking about it. And then that leads to larger issues around their attitudes and behaviors and their actions, and then societal reactions. So everything's really interconnected. It's a big topic that needs to be explored, and I think it benefits everyone to talk about these things.
Did you have anything you want to ask?
What advice do you have for guys that are struggling with body image issues?
I think one thing is to know that you're not alone. I think it's to recognize that it's not just yourself. And as a male, I would say also to create a space where, when you're with the guys, to think about the things that you say, the small, subtle things you say will create that environment where a guy will feel pressure to continue doing what they're doing and not talk about things. And, guys, I think for the most part, men do want to be there for their friends, for their partners, etc., but not thinking about the effect of what they're saying, and the power of their words. And again, because of things like, being a male in society, you sometimes don't have to worry about things because you're in the driver's seat. But, you stop and think about how this stuff is affecting myself and how it's affecting my friends. So creating a space where it's like, a guy would feel comfortable to approach the guy and say, this is kind of what I'm going through, what I'm dealing with. And it's a thing where it's hey, listen, you know what, I'm going through that too. So I think it's creating a space for others, and you'll find that you create that space for yourself as well, where you can talk about this stuff. Because I think the biggest thing is just to reach out, to open up, and come to terms yourself with something, and not to continue to distract yourself and to be in denial, but let's come to terms with it. It's okay. That it's okay to have feel vulnerable and need to ask for help and questions, and not feel secure in your physical being and your appearance. It's very common. So yeah.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to say you didn't get a chance to?
No. Yeah, just yeah.
What kind of stuff do you do in the workshops?
Well, we do. We look at in the workshops that we do for White Ribbon, we kind of stop and look at how we construct this idea of being a man, where it comes from, right? So the example I use, and I use in my TEDx talk, is this example of a young boy on the soccer field, and he gets hit by a soccer ball and starts to cry. And what happens is that he's feeling not so much a physical shame or pain, but a emotional pain. He's feeling shamed and embarrassed, and everyone pressures him to stop crying and to man up. And it starts from there, where he recognizes that this is what it is to be a man, and this is what it's not to be a man. And then you start to look at how this impacts all different aspects of life. So again, with physical health, neglecting our health, the things we eat is another thing too. Like men will, we have to disguise healthy products in these cool black labels and make it all funky and exciting to eat something that's low in calorie, or not talk about the fact that it's fat free, but just make this idea that this is the guy's drink. It's okay, it's safe. one of the things I talk about is even like you go to Shoppers Drug Mart, there's a men's zone. So, if you want to get skincare products or you want to get razors, it's okay. There's a safe zone for men, so you don't have to feel threatened or emasculated that you can go in there. So you start thinking about it in every space, every aspect of our being. There are these kinds of things happening. We talk about dancing and how some people will say that guys don't dance, or like you have to be dance in a masculine way. And what does that mean? There's really no space or place you can bring up where this gender piece doesn't come into play. Whether you're in fashion, whether you're in politics, this idea of what you should be or not be. We're here in the business school right now, and you think of being a leader, and this idea of being aggressive and ruthless, and saying that a feminine quality doesn't allow you to be a leader, when actually being assertive is feminine as well, and also being conscious and aware of the impact of what you're doing, and how you can be a stable part of society and not have to be ruthless to be successful. Those are things that are discouraged by some people, but the reality is it makes for a true leader in your space, and then what the group does. So we start talking about all these different aspects, and we start talking about, well, what is it that we can do to change that? And it's around these pieces of redefining ideas of what it is to be a man, and that's what we kind of explore with White Ribbon and talk about in, again, a variety of different ways and different aspects. So, yeah.
It's interesting because I'm interning at Canadian Family Magazine right now.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of debate with, especially new parents, with like these new toys that come out for kids that are, like there was the most recent one I think was Lego, and they came out with this female version of Lego, and it's just, I think parents now are just trying and break down these gender.
So true.
Yeah, like it's interesting. Like I remember too when my brother played soccer when he was younger. There was a kid on his team that like everyone else would be playing the game and he'd be like picking daffodils or whatever like in the field or dandelions, and so like everyone was calling him gay just because he's not. I still know the guy. He's not gay. He just didn't want to play soccer, and it's just
that's right.
But it's just interesting to see how parents are kind of dealing with that these days. It seems like they're trying. There's more of an effort, I think, to.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When you think of image and connection to things. There's this guy that I know who had at one point his 4-year-old son was playing with like an action figure army doll, and I called it a doll, and he was like, action figure? No, it's a doll, dude. It's a doll. Like it's got it's a toy doll. And he got really upset by that. No, it's an action figure. Don't. My son's not gay. That whole thing. Right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's actually. I can send it to you. There's an app online called a Gender Mixer. And what it is basically it takes about 10 different boys commercials and girls commercials. And you can take the audio from one and the video from the other and kind of mash it up and switch it around. So what you have is you have the video of this really soft, lovey-dovey, cute furry creatures and hearts and My Little Pony and that kind of thing. And you have the audio of the boys commercials, which is very aggressive and always about war and violence and that kind of thing. And you can flip it. So you'd have you'd have this image of My Little Pony, and then you can see that they're saying, kill, go in and take over this and do that. And at an early age, it all starts these ideas of what it is that you need to, what boys do and what boys don't do, and what girls do and don't do. So it's like I say in the workshops, before you're even born, you're put in a box, and they start asking your family's being asked questions about what's the gender, and things are already set up for you before you even get to say a word about it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting to look at, in all ways, how we construct this stuff, and importantly, people will say, well, you got to start early, and that's true. But I think there's no time that's too late to start talking about this stuff. So.
What's interesting is I don't know if you've heard of the game Just Dance. It's on Wii.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So my cousins, they have my aunts and uncle have 3 boys, and they bought the Just Dance game for my middle cousin Lucas because he was gaining some weight. So they wanted him to be able to play video games, still have fun.
Sure.
But they got it during the summer, and then he started school again. And I went over to his house and I was like, hey Lucas, come on, let's go play Just Dance, because I love playing that game. It's so fun.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, I don't play that game anymore. And I was like, well, how come? And then he was like, well, I want to play this game. And then he started playing, I don't know, some fighting game. So it was just kind of interesting to see that once he started school, it was like he doesn't play Just Dance anymore.
That's right.
I have
That's
a younger female cousin too, and she was like she has an older sister who was really feminine and she liked dolls and all that. But Kylie, the youngest one, she liked Spider-Man. Like everything. She had to go out and get Spider-Man shoes.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. As soon as she started school, it was like
Yeah.
she liked Dora and she liked
Yeah.
Hannah Montana, like all that kind of stuff. It was
Yeah.
a total
Yeah.
360.
It's true.
Interesting.
It's true. And
But there's another thing I just read, and you might have heard about it, was these parents, I can't remember if it was a boy or girl they had, but they didn't tell the kid what their gender was until they were like
Yeah.
4 years old or something
Right,
like that. Like
right.
I really can't remember if it was a boy or girl, but they let them live up
Yeah.
until they were 4, like however, like they didn't know if they were a boy or a girl, they just,
yeah, it's interesting
Why not?
how
Yeah.
how that works out. You know.
yeah.
I was there was